And we're back, another episode of The Climb, and it's a solo episode today. And I wanted to share with everyone one of my favorite lessons, really from college, but in life, about mental toughness. And if you've been following me or have been a follower of Team Garbo for quite some time, you might have heard of this. But what I think to be the number one aspect of mental toughness is controlling the controllables. So, getting into that, I wanted to share kind of how I came across this and how I use it in everyday life because I think it's a tool that everyone can tap into, whether it's for their personal life, their emotional health, physical health, their job. It's really an interesting key part to not only kind of keep your head on straight, but to really make you mentally tough in hard, difficult situations. So, kind of peeling the onion back on the whole topic of controlling the controllables and how simple and in layman's terms it sounds. Really, what it comes down to is there's only so many things in this life that you can really control. Most of the things that we deal with are out of our control. And so when you can zone in on the aspects of life and things that you're dealing with that are in your control, the better off you'll be. And when you find yourself into difficult, hard, stressful situations in life, whether that's just any day life, work life, or even in sports, where I learned this in sports psychology, you will find that it will better you just to understand that there's a line of control, and whether you understand what you can control and can't control is going to be the difference of you moving forward in a progressive way. So, to give everyone the backstory of this, it's a pretty common philosophy, really. Stuff that people probably already know, probably already lived through, whether you knew of the term control the controllables or not. And mental toughness is like the key thing. Whether it's in sports, outside of sports, everyone wants to be mentally tough. I mean, it's all over ESPN. It's all over when you talk about these elite athletes and how do you make people more mentally tough. And there's many things that I learned in sports psychology and performance psychology that are very simple interventions that people can do to be more mentally tough, be prepared for difficult situations and stressful situations. And when you really think about some of those concepts, they relate so well to real life. We find ourselves in distressful situations more often than we want to. And when it comes to this key reference point, and I always say that this is the one thing that I would challenge people to focus on before anything else, before positive, self-talk or imagery and maybe different meditation and breathing habits and focus cues when it comes to, sports psychology or performance psychology. Well, I do believe in all the things I just said, especially positive self-talk, to understand the core concept of controlling what you can control is really what I believe the foundation to all mental toughness. So, what does that all mean? Well, to me, controlling the controllables means quite a bit. It's quite impressive when you capture what you can control and kind of take that and impact it into every aspect of your life. Now, I'll break it down as simple as possible. I actually did a presentation of this in college and found a great video. And if you guys have been following the Team Garbo blog, you probably have seen a link to this video. It was from the performance coach of the New York Red Bulls professional soccer team, MLS, and he broke down controlling the controllables in a very simple form. He talked about controlling your ear, your effort, attitude, and your response. Now, let's think about that. It's really simple to think of, hey, I can control it. I can control my emotions. I can control the situation I'm in. But when you break down effort, attitude, and response, it really applies to so many things in your life. And anything out of that scope, you really should let it go by the wayside. So I wanted to kind of paint a picture Because when I was speaking in class in general, you giving these examples previously, um, sports is kind of simple when you talk about it. You can't control the refs' calls, you can't control the weather, can't control what the other team does, what the fans do, but you can control the effort in between the lines. You can control your preparation that you put in, how you are responding and your attitude to certain events in a game or situation, or how potentially you're responding to critical feedback from a coach. Maybe responding from different types of competition. But when we internalize that, that is all really just sports analogies that if anyone has played competitive sports or even recreation, those are just simple lessons, life lessons as you learn going through it. So how does this really relate to life, mental health, and mental toughness? Well, when you can capture controlling the controllables, going into any situation does seem easier. And I wanted to share just in general how this works in my life, dealing with my mental illness and just in general with my life stressors. So it's no secret that I have bipolar disorder, and I have to stay in tune and be mindful and present of what's going on internally in my body, physically and emotionally. So many things can happen for me to lead up to get into an unhealthy situation. For instance, I'm writing about really my last lead up of the hospitalization I had for the third and the last time, which was quite a bit of time now. What I'm writing down is experiencing this awesome time where overcame my own, self pity, and started to love myself, started to find a good mental health routine, and had some really good, strong years. But what I struggled with was professional stress that I didn't really understand to the level that I should have, that it was impacting me, that there were things that were really, really, really bothering me and festering over time. And I didn't properly handle that in a space that was, appropriate nor healthy for where I was. And to kind of relate it to controlling the controllables is that when you have things over time really stressful and that can fester and put you into a vulnerable position with your mental health, it's important to understand that there's only so many things that you can do in a professional setting. Even if you are entrepreneurs, like both my parents are, and you call the shots, ultimately there's other things affecting your life and your business that are completely out of your control. And so really waking up every day for those entrepreneurs or anyone else, working for someone in a corporation or a small business, you can't control the response that you're going to get from others. You can't control the different reorganizations or the layoffs or the potential stressors of a big project or complaints from a client. There's nothing that I can do if a client that I'm working with is having financial troubles and they can't invest into their strategies that they're working with me. There's nothing that I can do to foresee labor shortages and supply chain problems that are affecting the clients that I work with. And while it might be extremely challenging to deal with these adversity type of situations, the three things that you can control is your effort that you put into the situation, whether it's giving, for this specific example, is putting as much energy as you possibly can if you run your own business or in your own position of trying to build resources or finding different ways to solve a problem. And then the attitude of, hey, yeah, this is a crappy situation, but I've seen worse situations. I've been in better days. And really the response, really responding in a way that's healthy for you and to you. And it's not just one way to fix it. It's not like the I statements that we had in elementary school, or you could read off of a bit of a card. It's really like a core philosophy in life that you should live by is this ear, the effort, the attitude, and your response. Don't worry about anything else outside of that because it's not in your control. And that's something referencing back to that time that I was writing about that I didn't understand. I didn't understand that the things that I couldn't control could have such a deep, lasting impact. And I use that word festering. And I think a lot of negativity festers and frustration. And that could lead into really harmful situations. Now, just because you're having a bad day at work, a bad day with your client, your coworker, your partner, your boss, or your company, doesn't mean you're going to be spun off, and for myself, into a manic episode. But these things compound. And when it comes to bad situations, professionally, personally, or emotionally, or not handling them properly, it can really add up. And that's what happened to me in my last hospitalization. They were talking months of improper way of handling professional stress, leading to different types of really personal, development strategies that I have collapse and kind of just a lapse in my own type of well-being treatment put me into a vulnerable state where, I wasn't really mindful of what was going on for months with my stress, and it wasn't really kind of addressing some of the very faint warning signs of a manic episode. Now, this is extremely an example that maybe a lot of people can't relate to, but I bet if we do think about some of these situations that are on our mind right now, of how long have they been on our mind and how long have they been bothering us, or how long do we want to have this short-term pain in the butt last with us? And I can imagine that most people really don't want that stuff on their mind. So I challenge everyone to use their ear, their effort, their attitude, and their response. Because mental toughness is not something that can just be bought. It really needs to be developed. Some people are born more mentally tough than others, more resilient. But even if you're resilient, are you aware and mindful of the certain things that are harmful for you? I mean, for instance, I think just from where I've come from, being a resilient person, being the son of Mark and Lisa Garbaski, that I can go through any situation and power through it. But powering through really difficult situations without really understanding that some stuff is really out of my control and not focusing on the things that I control has actually ended me in the hospital a few different times. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. Maybe not to the hospital, but the fact that there's stuff that's out of our control that simply make our lives uncontrollable. And for so many things that we can't control, to be empowered to take the reins of your ear, your effort, your attitude, and response at all times in all situations is extremely empowering. And will make you mentally tough to go into whatever situation you're currently in, or that mountain-like obstacle that gets in your way for the foreseeable future that happens. And we know, because this is the climb and you guys are listening to this podcast, that there are good days ahead of us, but there's also going to be those obstacles. So in order to be mentally tough, try controlling your ear, the effort, your attitude, and your response. And I promise you, you're going to feel a lot more mentally tough when you incorporate that into your everyday life. Thanks for everyone for watching, for the support. It's much appreciated. Definitely let me know what you guys think about this little tip. And if there's anything else that you guys like me to cover on these little solo podcasts. Thanks, guys. Be well.